Hi! Today's video, I have a very interesting topic, and that is a perception. I haven't been live on Friday due to some unexpected circumstances. I'm not that happy because I said to myself that I'm going to be consistent, and consistency is the important part of developing your business or anything that you do. But nevertheless, I thought more thoroughly on what I'm going to say and speak in this video. So I've been doing my research and everything and writing everything down in my cafe. And today's the day. So today we're going to talk about the perception. And I'm going to call that the way I call it, I have an article in my upcoming book, which is called The Third Perception. And this is what I'm going to talk about today. The third perception. A few years ago, well, it's not just few, now it's maybe some 10 years ago, I had a very important and interesting conversation with my spiritual teacher, one of my spiritual teachers. And I don't remember exactly what question I set up in that conversation. It's been a long time ago. But I very clearly remember the answer I got, and that answer is still extremely influential in my life, and I use it every day. And it went like this. My teacher told me, Alexandra, you always have to try to make sure that, especially in important situations in life or in the times of, well, not just difficulty, also some challenges or whichever part doesn't have to always be difficult. But let's say that in difficult situations, you kind of need that more, you need some tools more. He said, always try to step outside of yourself and look at your life from a different perspective. I call it the third perception because usually when we have something going on, it involves our personal subjective perception of a situation, our own feelings, thoughts about something. Then you have the other person or the other people, if there are more people involved, their perception and their subjective experience of the situation or the problem, or call it however you want. And that's why I call this the third perception, because they are the second, I'm the first, they're the second, and you have to have the third. And the third one is exactly that. You have to step outside and look at an issue, problem, situation, whatever, from that third perception. And that's very, very important and very useful to use in life. I started to go to fitness. Oh, that's like, I don't know what time. How many times did I go to fitness? Why do I say this? Because I never endured enough to make it a part of my life. And I'm upset with that. I want this time to really be disciplined. So there's a place called Kinezis Fitness Lab in my town. And because my son goes there to jiu-jitsu practice, they have a combination where you can, at the same time, kids practice, and you can also do your exercise, which is perfect. Really good combination, at least for me, because I don't have to, waste 45 minutes or an hour doing nothing or just waiting for my son to finish. So this time I can also exercise, so that's perfect. And thank you for the Kinezis Fitness Lab. Thank you for the combination. It's good. And I especially recommend it. So I started my fitness. Now, when I brought my son first time for the training, I sat there and I watched how this fitness goes on. The Kinezis Fitness Lab has a very unusual, at least for me, an unusual concept, which it doesn't involve a lot of machines, it's not like a usual fitness. It's very, when I stepped into there and observed it from my perspective, and let's go a little bit analyzing this particular situation. I like to give examples. I sat there not having enough knowledge of that fitness and anyway sports of that kind. I'm not knowledgeable about that much. So I don't have a lot of knowledge about it. And I never had a direct experience of that type of training. So my perspective came out of my subjective opinion. So I was sitting there an hour watching how they practice and how they exercise without a lot of machines. And I thought, is it possible to make you really fit and make, really gain muscles in that type of practice? And I was very doubtful. The system was it's very mind-blowing a little bit, and I like that. It's very slightly chaotic, even though there's complete organization there, and everybody knows exactly what, how, where. It's like, but when you come at first, it might look a little chaotic. At least it did to me. And there's not a lot of machines. I always have a conception that you can only pump up yourself and your muscles with machines and with weightlifting and things like that. So I was doubtful, like, is it really, can you do that? Like, can I gain some muscles? Can I build my body like this? Maybe I can maybe use some strength out of my own body, but really can I reach a goal that I have set up in my mind? And I was doubtful. And then, since I'm a little bit of an observer, I kind of observed people there trying to give myself a recognition of, yes, you can. And what did I observe? I observed their asses and their, overall body muscle structure. But the thing is, I came there and I told to my trainer, you know what? Somewhere on the path of my life, I lost my ass somewhere and nobody told me. And I kind of figured it out by mistake, not by mistake, by accident. Once when I was while I was filming myself, and then I noticed, oh my God, like, where's my ass? Nobody told me. And then I decided I'm gonna go and do some exercise. But and it might sound a little weird, what you went there and you looked at other people's butts. Yeah, because I wanted some confirmation, and I got it. Like, they really, look very fit and very nice, and there are muscles involved. So I said, okay, let me try this. And I went there. My first training was quite an easy one. Not a lot of just getting to know the system and everything. And then the training was the real training. That was, not easy. I really kind of got total confirmation to that you can really build up your life, your body, and your life with that, with very little weight. Just using your body, using a system, consistency, discipline, and I'm going there and I'm doing it. And I said, I'm gonna give myself six months and do the routine regularly and see what happens. At least I'll be very, very happy if I just gain more strength in my body and more vitality. So the Kinezis Fitness Labs, I recommend. Probably in your town, maybe you have one too. So my perception gave me an untrue and a little bit of an illusion about what the objective was, how the objective is, and what the objective's results are. So stepping outside, especially if it's something important, if it's a relationship, if it's anything that's really important, you really need to use that tool to step outside of your perception and take a look from the point of knowledge and experience. So if you don't have enough knowledge, if you don't have enough experience, you will not be able to look at the objective truthfully. You will get your own perception, which will mostly be an illusionary perception. It won't give you the truth, the real thing. So the stepping outside is crucial and especially in relationships. Now about relationship, we could talk about this perception point from many angles and aspects. And so many seminars and books are written about this, and it's an ongoing thing, and it's because it's so important. We tend to forget, and that's why I'm doing this video, to remind you and myself just as well, to never forget that. When we go to a relationship issue, the third perception is absolutely crucial. There's no possible resolution of a conflict of any kind without you stepping outside of your own subjective opinion and perception of the other person or the issue that you're dealing with, without you stepping outside. It's not possible. You're just going to have an argument with no end, most probably. Or you have an argument where you end the argument but no resolution. You won't be happy with it, the other person won't be happy. You may be ending it with, I'm just going to shut up, or I'm going to give up, I'm going to just let it go. Or you can do the other side around and be angry at the person and, again, resolve nothing, really. When we go, I would like to go more specific into this and give a more specific example. Let's give an example of a couple of partners. So it's a female, male, or whichever partner's relationship, that kind of relationship. You can reflect the formula equally well to any other relationship, whether it's with your parents, your family, or the rest of the family, your siblings, your children, even your co-workers. Yeah, co-workers. There will be a little bit of adjustment there in the way that you're going to communicate, of course, and that's understandable, but the formula is the same. So let's say you have an issue with your partner, anything, and we're talking about a conflict, an argument, and it may be a first time appearing, or it may be an ongoing thing. Maybe most usually it may be a different trigger, but the same response to do whatever triggered you to have a conflict, an argument, but you are dealing with the same response, and you're having no resolution of the conflict. So let's go into this by using a third perception. So the third perception is absolutely crucial, because otherwise we're talking about the fact that you're not being productive in your communication. We're talking about an example where you didn't know how to set up an agreement or communicate it properly, or made a resolution of the problem and made it all right. You didn't understand yourself. So we're talking about that issue. So it's crucial. It means that you didn't put yourself in a third perception. It means you didn't step outside of yourself. You were only locked up in here and here, in your own opinion, your own perception of the situation, your own perception of the problem, your own ways of how you see it being resolved. But it's not working. So step outside. Go up like an angel. Step outside and take a little bit of a look onto the situation from a different angle. Now, what does that mean? Very logically, this means that you're going to look at the other person and from which point and which angle they are saying what they're saying, and why you're not being able to resolve it productively. So it's not possible to understand another person, why they're talking the way they're talking, feeling the way they're feeling, unless you step outside and try to see from their perspective. It's even not so, I don't even suggest it visually. If you're trying, I'm trying to visually present this to you. Just to step outside or step outside and try to be the person, like going to the second perception, It's actually quite important to use the tool as the third perception, not going direct to the person, because that might lose your perception. And your perception, your state of being, and how you feel and how you think is still very, very important. You can't lose it. So you can, sometimes we go by, okay, let me understand the other person. And then maybe you even reach something, but then you forget about yourself and about your own opinion and your own state of feelings. And that's also not good, because at the end of the conflict resolution, the person in front of you might be satisfied with the outcome, but you might not be. So step into the third perception, taking a look and remembering how you feel and what your opinions are, but at the same time, taking a look at the other person and how they feel. So you stepped outside, you became an angel, and you're looking at the other person and the problem. Well, not so much the problem, but the way the person feels and the way the person sees the problem. First step is we want to understand the person. To understand the person means, let me see. To understand the person is really not so easy. Let's say the word understand means to do it in a thought process. So it's in your, let's say, head. So you're using your thinking process, your knowledge, your reasoning about the other person. So when we say the first step will be understanding the person, it means on the thought process of trying to understand how the person functions. And that's very important. But you can't stop there. If you really find the relationship and the conflict quite crucial for your life and important, and you want to put some work into it, and you really want to resolve it and make, give it a different level, then you absolutely have to go to the second step, and that's to feel what the other person feels, and to feel what the other person is saying. So you're listening to the other person, you're not agreeing, let's say. You feel that you're not being understood. You stepped outside, you're trying to go to another level. You're going to go into the thought process by reasoning, by knowledge, by this, that. It's going to stay here. You might even understand the person, but without the feeling of what other person feels regarding the same thoughts that you now grasp and figured out, you won't be able to really understand the person. And the problem will not be able to resolve itself, because you didn't go from the first step to the second step, which is to emotionally understand the person and what other person state of feelings are behind the words that the person is saying. I may say the same exact sentence and feel completely different in the same situation than you, him, her, or somebody else. The same exact situation, but because of many aspects, all kinds. I'm not going to go into that now. But I may have the same words and different feelings stand behind it. So in important relationships, this is crucial to go into and to try from a third perception, not to just understand the words and the subject the person is saying. Mostly you will be able to figure that out quite fast. But the actual feelings that stand behind that person regarding that situation and opinion is crucial for the conflict to be resolved, for you to understand the person. Of course, it has to be vice versa, but one at a time, and somebody needs to start. and let it be you. Why not? Sometimes it'll be you, and on the other hand, in some other occasions, it will be the other person. So it has to be vice versa. It has to be that you first try to listen through the formula of being in third perception, going from the first step of understanding, going to the second step of trying to feel the person. And in this way, you'll get your own perception that will be more truthful and understanding, and you're heading towards a resolution that will be beneficial for both. Once you've given an opportunity to the other person, you listened actively to the other person with all this thought process and emotional process involved, then the other person also has to do the same towards you. If you can be very clear about the way you're going to communicate with the person, that's even better. But sometimes it's not necessary, and sometimes maybe even too much, because it might put a pressure on doing something very technically in a robot-like system. So maybe these things can come up with time very naturally. But these steps, I'm going to repeat them like, I don't know how many times in this video. These steps are very, very crucial in order to really, really grasp the problem and resolve the conflict in its real core and base. If you see conflicts between partners, arguments, let's say, that don't have some strong base behind, some really strong, difficult problem behind, it's something, just some little things trigger these arguments or conflict, but the same repeating of the same behavior is appearing. You'll see that the problem is not in the trigger system, whether you, I don't know, left the dishes somewhere where she didn't want to, or she's bothering you now when you want to rest, and so on and so forth. I mean, you can give yourself examples. The problem is actually in communication. Absolutely. On the first levels of communication, of not communicating properly, and not using a proper understanding of what it means to communicate properly. Today, we don't know how to communicate. We think it's natural. We think it goes, automatic. We're not taught to communicate properly. Why do you think there are so many seminars, especially in business field, of how to communicate properly? It sounds like a cliche, but it really isn't. Once you get your own experience of where you actively cooperated in your own personal conflict resolution, whichever way, whichever place in your life, whether it's in your personal level, in a relationship with someone, or in a business, in your at the place where you work, once you get that experience, that will brighten up your day, and it will give you complete different insight into that. There's also another thing that I'm just gonna name it. I'm just gonna say it, and that's something you might want to also think about. Something I'm gonna talk in another video, and that's to learn to communicate properly with yourself. Now, that's a little bit of an abstract point, but it's even more neglected than talking to or establishing a proper communication with another person in front of you or other people in front of you. So remember these things, please. This is just the scraping of a surface regarding communicating with another person in resolving something. It's base, it's total surface. First, trying to step outside into the different perception, leaving a little bit of yours aside, a little bit. Going into trying to understand on a knowledgeable level, reasoning, intelligence, a level, what the person is saying, and more crucially, communicating on a level of emotions, and trying to understand what the person is feeling behind what the person is saying and how the person is reacting. In this way, you'll get to the point and to the core, which actually will give you an insight into that it's not the trigger. Actually, it's not the, the leftover socks somewhere on the floor, or, she's bothering you while you're watching a game. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't have such. I didn't have such examples in my life. I had more abstract ones. But I'm trying to set up an example that I saw in the TV shows. Something that people always use as a common thing. And you'll see that the problem stands a little bit more deeper behind these socks, behind the game. And you need to get to there. It's not going to be so obvious. Majority of us are not going to be so, it's not going to be obvious to even us what the real problem is and why we are flipping. So you can get both to that point. And in the resolution, in the process of the resolution of this, also the person, herself or himself, you self, will get to more of understanding of why am I flipping like this. And that's also really important, because then you can tackle your problem where it lies. So, this is the 10th time I'm going to repeat this, right? First step, step outside your own perception. Step outside of your own little selfish view. Go into the person. Listen to what they're saying. Listen. And go into, most importantly, to the level of trying to understand how the person feels. And do it vice versa. Okay. Love you as usual, and see you soon in the next video.